What's up guys, Mr. Bazy here, and today we're going to be talking about speed-related things within Halo 5 Guardians. Now I know that in the previous commentary about sniper rifles, we did speak about the fire rate of that weapon, and honestly, I just feel like we should touch on the speed of various and general things within Halo a bit more, because it is a very important topic to talk about and really discuss, because it's a profound general thing in Halo. Okay, so one of the very first things and one of the very first examples that I want to throw out there, and I've talked about, toggleable abilities, but what I really want to see is in things like custom games, the ability to really dial in the settings you want. Now, I'm not complaining about custom games in any way. Custom games is fantastic, but the reality is I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's as customizable as it really could be. And if I had my way, in a perfect world of Halo, okay, the settings would be a bit complex, all right? They would be very, very in-depth, and they would take a bit of understanding and a bit of a learning curve to kind of pick up on, because they'd be that detailed, okay? And an example of that would be like, you know how we can dial in our movement speed, okay? We can't really dial it in, but we can, to an extent, adjust the movement speed. But we can only do it by tens of percents. Now, if I had my way, I would like to see it not at 5%, increments, not at 1% increments, but at decimal point increments, so that we can, very accurately and precisely dial in exactly what we're looking for out of a game. And I'm not saying this needs to be a matchmaking. I'm not saying that, we have this on the fly. We can all change our movement speed and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about in custom games specifically for certain applications, like, again, competitive may be one who would really benefit from something like this. We all know how much competitive likes to tweak and fine-tune settings. This would really open up some wide doors for them, and I think it would be a really great opportunity. But again, this can benefit so many other people on so many different levels, and that's just one example, okay? I'm also thinking, okay, maybe not just movement speed. Why don't we also be able to dial in things like the sprinting speed? Okay, how much does sprint actually propel you, like from just general walking around to actually sprinting? That might really introduce a bit of balancing if we're able to tune that down a bit. If we can actually dial it in as specific, it doesn't need to be decimals, because again, that is a bit complex. And in a perfect world, in my mind, that's how we'd be able to do it. But let's just go with the 1% increments. I think that's reasonable. I think that's precise enough. Okay. And so that's basically what I'm talking about. I think if we were able to do that, if we were able to fine-tune things like sprinting, for example, and really dial in how much of a speed boost does sprinting actually give you, we may not have to scale the maps as big. I think people might not be so taken back at the idea of sprint anymore, even though I'm kind of a supporter of it. Okay, I do like it, and I also don't like certain things about it. I'm kind of in the middle about it, and it's there, and I'm accepting of it. But I do understand that if we were to dial it back a bit and make it so that sprinting wasn't as massive, okay? Well, it didn't make as much of a profound impact. I think it might be a bit easier for some of the community members that really don't want sprint in the game to really accept that. And, there's a bunch of other things. We can go from 100% movement speed to maybe 50% run speed or something like that. And I'm talking about sprinting at this point, okay? We've already discussed general movement speed, but here's another idea. Here's another concept. We all know that clambering is in Halo 5 Guardians, okay? And this particular one is actually really interesting to me. So you could, we all know how fast it is. It doesn't take long at all to clamber. It's pretty much instantaneous, and it removes, okay, even though I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but the fact of the matter is it does remove one of the skill sets that were, I wouldn't say necessary, but definitely nice to have in the previous Halos, which is being able to maneuver the map with crouch jumps. Certain jumps could not be achieved unless you did a specific crouch jump. One of the most known, I would say, is on the map Guardian from Halo 3, being able to go from, and I'm not talking about the one from bottom gold to top gold. That was basically a trick jump. I'm talking about a generic crouch jump that could not be achieved otherwise. And one of the main ones is going from top of gold to the blue room. Okay, you have to jump across that gap, and one of the only ways you can really do that successfully time and time again is being able to do a successful crouch jump, and you barely make that jump. If you don't do the crouch jump, you really don't make the jump 100% of the time, if ever, if I remember correctly. So basically it removes that from the game, and I think if we were able to maybe alter the animation speed of the clamber in Halo 5 Guardians, it might make it better balanced, okay? It might be a bit more reasonable for the community to take, and it might balance it a bit better. So instead of being instantaneous and pretty much having your gun ready almost nearly the moment after you've done clambering, which takes about half of a second, if that, maybe we can increase the animation. Maybe we can make the animation a bit longer so that, it's a bit of a disadvantage to clamber. But in some situations, you may have to. The ledge may be that hard to reach, but actually getting to that ledge may be advantageous. But for that moment of time while you're clambering, you don't have your weapon, it's going to take you a bit longer, and you're vulnerable. So you have to make sure that you can make that jump, as safely as possible. And then, again, we can turn off that little hover thing. I personally don't really like it that much. It's not that I don't like the implementation. For me, it just kind of messes my game up. I like to be able to just jump and then float down. I don't like to be in the air hovering. I think that, to me, I feel a bit more exposed when that happens. But, in a situation like that, I like to turn that off. So I can still crouch jump. At least I could in the beta. We'll see how it is when the game comes out. But I venture to say we're going to still be able to turn that off. So, I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to have the ability to crouch jump. Now, there are some jumps in the game that can be achieved by a simple crouch jump that, again, you could just do it by a crouch jump. You don't need to do a clamber, while others definitely do require a clamber, ones that are within arm's reach that you could clamber on. But again, if we could dial in the speed of the animation of that clamber thing, basically they'd be a bit more vulnerable. Yes, they may be able to get somewhere quicker, or they may be able to get into an advantageous spot, but while they're doing that, while they're attempting to get to that spot, they are more vulnerable than just doing a crouch jump. And again, there's some jumps in the game that you could, if you learn them, you could successfully crouch jump them all the time and not have to have that disadvantage. If you're able to acquire that skill set and really put the time and effort in to learn those crouch jumps, then again, that could be a different way we play Halo. You have that the crouch jumping feature from before, but you also have the, maybe quicker, maybe more advantageous clamber ability in some situations, but you have to deal with the added risk that is involved with clambering to an area if, theoretically, it took you longer if we could dial in the animation speed. So those are just 3 examples. I think the last one, clamber, is definitely the most intriguing in my mind. Again, it would really be beneficial to be able to tune those other 2, as well as various other things, like maybe even weapon speeds, weapon fire rates. A great example here would be in Halo. Now, I understand that, right off the bat, from what I've seen in Halo 5 Guardians, I don't think it's too bad. I think it's looking pretty promising in terms of the balancing of weapons right off the bat, so that's a good thing. But let's go back a bit to Halo 4. We all know that the DMR was, pretty godlike back in the day in Halo 4 before all the other weapons got buffed to kind of be on par with the DMR. Now, it took 6 months for that to happen, guys. It took a very long time, and if we had the ability to fine-tune things such as weapon fire rates, and as well as the others, to, a pretty finite degree, a pretty very specific degree, like maybe, in that particular case, I don't think it would be ones of percents. It would probably be a different measurement, because it is a fire rate, not a speed, not a percentage of speed. But who knows? It could be implemented the same way. The point of the matter is we could have dialed it back a long time ago, roughly. Again, it would only apply in custom games, but still, I think a lot of people really were turned off by the fact that it took so long, really turned off by the gun itself, the fact that it was so powerful and you really needed to use it kind of to really do absolutely dominant in pretty much every situation. But, it took so long to fix it. I thought, the community kind of died out a bit. They didn't like that it wasn't happening, that they didn't like that results weren't being seen. And that's what I'm talking about here, guys, that, we could have fixed this problem a long time ago if, 343 gave us the ability to fine-tune things such as those things in custom game and really kind of make our own Halo and play our own Halo and all those things. And, that's basically what I'm talking about here today. And I'd like to know your opinions in the comments down below as well. And before I go, guys, I want to say one more thing. If you have any ideas for commentaries, definitely let me know in the comments down below, because it's not that I have a hard time coming up with ideas. It's just that I don't like to necessarily talk about things that are, very easy to talk about. I like to, think out of the box a bit. Like this particular commentary, yes, it's something that's in the game that I'd like to see, but I don't think it's generally something that most people would think of talking about. And I want to think out of the box. I want to think of things that are a bit more complex and things like that. But if you have any ideas, because I do talk about a lot of things that I think are important, so if you have any personal ideas that you think you'd like me to talk about, definitely drop them in the comments down below. Love to hear your ideas, your opinions on pretty much everything, not only about what I say, but also in terms of what you'd like to see me do next. So with that being said, guys, rate the video what you think it deserved, and if you'd like to become a Sage in training, make sure you subscribe today. This has been Mr. Basie, your favorite Sage, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.